He's the last line between justice and disaster, and half the time he ain't sure which side he's on. They call him chain of custody, because once something's in his hands, it don't leave the same way it came in. Caffeine Evidence 214. Introducing Chain of Custody, fudge dark chocolate espresso with a caramel swirl. Strong enough to wake the dead, sweet enough to keep you quiet about it. He doesn't play by the book. Hell, he writes new chapters every time he walks into the room. No sugarcoating. No second chances. Just caffeine, grit, and a paper trail that disappears when he does. Agent Lopez is proof that loyalty ain't about sides. It's about who you'll burn for when the heat's on. Agent Lopez, chain of custody. Once it's in your hands, it's evidence.
What the fuck you doing in there, you prick?
The Zodiac Suspect, the Arthur Leigh Allen File. A Pizzaverse true crime documentary. We don't rewrite history, we excavate it. Written by Bambi Palermo, narrated by Vincent, don't make me say it twice, DePrio. The man who walked in the shadow of a monster. Northern California, late 1960s, peace signs, protests, psychedelic bullshit. But under the tie-dye, a terror that carved its name into the spine of California, the Zodiac Killer. A guy who didn't just murder, nah, this bastard performed, sent letters, taunted cops, mocked reporters, turned the state into one giant anxiety attack. And amid the chaos, police kept circling back to one man, a man whose life seemed stitched together out of red flags, Arthur Leigh Allen. Some people swear he was the Zodiac. Others say it's a dead end. Tonight, we ain't picking sides. We're taking the file out of the drawer and letting the facts talk. The life of Arthur Leigh Allen. Before he was the prime suspect in America's most legendary cold case, Allen was born December 18th, 1933, raised in California, smart enough, but socially off, a Navy vet who got bounced for bad behavior, a school teacher who got fired for inappropriate conduct with minors. A guy who lived alone, kinda grimy, kinda strange. He had hobbies, knives, guns, diving, engineering, creepy talk. He had no wife, no kids, no typical attachments. The kinda guy who blends right into suburbia while making the neighbors uncomfortable. But none of that makes him a killer. It does, however, set the stage for cops saying, "This guy, something's off." The first tip-off, the friend who spoke up, summer 1971. Police get a call from a longtime friend of Allen's, Don Chaney, and Chaney drops a bomb. Says Allen talked about killing couples. Says Allen said he'd call himself Zodiac. Says Allen fantasized about attaching a flashlight to a gun barrel, just like the Zodiac described. Says Allen owned a hunting knife with a bloody nickname. This wasn't a vague, "he's weird." This was specific as hell, and it puts Allen squarely in the spotlight. The watch, the symbol, the location. Let's talk symbolism. The Zodiac symbol, a crosshair in a circle. Allen wore a watch with the same symbol, same logo, same name. The watch brand? Zodiac. Now look, lots of people own watches. But when the most wanted serial killer in California uses your watch's logo as his calling card, the cops ain't gonna ignore that. Add that to the fact that Allen lived minutes from the first murder site, right between Vallejo and Benicia, in the exact cluster where Zodiac attacks happened. He wasn't kind of near. He was in the pocket. The timeline suspiciously lines up. Let's run the tape. 1968, 1969, Zodiac's first attacks. Where's Allen? Living in Vallejo. 1969, Zodiac taunts media with letters. Where's Allen? At home, unemployed, pissed, stewing. 1971, Allen becomes a suspect. Where's Allen? Getting raided for the first time. Nothing definitive pops up, but it's enough to keep him on the board. The strangeness factor. Look being weird ain't illegal, but Allen wasn't regular weird. He was the kind that sets off car alarms in your brain. Told people he liked the idea of hunting humans. Was accused of animal cruelty. Had violent fantasies. Would laugh about murder. Had a dark sense of humor that made the Zodiac's letters look like a diary entry. He also had a habit of inserting himself into conversations about the Zodiac. Too eager, too knowing. This ain't proof, but it damn sure made detectives uncomfortable. The 1972 raid police hit Allen's house for the first time. They find weapons, ammo knives, blood-stained clothes that Allen said came from animals, disturbing sexual materials, explosive materials tapes. But here's the kicker. Nothing directly ties him to Zodiac. No letters, no ciphers, no souvenirs, no blood evidence, no paper stock. It's suspicious, but legally it's a fart in a hurricane. Handwriting, the big problem. Zodiac wrote neat block lettering. Cops get a handwriting sample from Allen. Experts say no match. Now handwriting ain't DNA. Writers can disguise their shit. But it's a strike against the case. And California investigators? They took handwriting seriously. Maybe too seriously. DNA, the game changer. Kinda. Late 1990s years after Allen's death, scientists test DNA from the stamp of a Zodiac letter. Allen's DNA doesn't match. But, listen here, kids. There's debate about whether the Zodiac even licked his own stamps. That DNA sample might come from a mailroom worker, a secretary, a random schmuck at the paper factory. So the DNA doesn't clear anyone with 100% certainty. Still, another strike. Fingerprints. There's a partial fingerprint from a Zodiac crime scene. Does it match Allen? No. But again, it's partial. It ain't gospel. But it's another gut punch for the Allen did it crowd. The physical description issue. Multiple survivors describe the Zodiac as 5'8" to 5'10", stocky crew, cut glasses. Allen, 6'1", heavy-set, balding, distinctive look. But people under attack don't always give perfect descriptions. And one victim, Michael Mageau, pointed right at Allen's photo and said, "That's the guy who shot me." Then later retracted it, then resaid it, then got confused again. Eyewitnesses, they're tricky. The 1991 raid and final years. 20 years later, detectives raid Allen again. They find guns, more creepy writings, homemade bomb shit, animal bones, porn, a typewriter. But once again, no Zodiac materials. Within a year, Allen dies of heart failure in 1992. No confession, no letters, no deathbed drama. The case stays open. The verdict of history is Arthur Leigh Allen the Zodiac. Here's the truth, doll. Reasons people think he was the Zodiac. He literally talked about doing Zodiac-style murders. He wore the Zodiac symbol, lived near crime scenes, owned weapons, had disturbing fantasies, was matched by a victim's early ID. His friend gave specific details. He fit the psychological profile cops always felt like something was off with him. Reasons he probably wasn't: handwriting mismatch, fingerprint mismatch, DNA mismatch, solid alibi for one attack. Nothing Zodiac-related ever found in his home. Final answer: he was the strongest suspect, but not proven. Not charged, not linked scientifically, not confirmed. He remains the man who almost fit. Almost. And in murder investigations, almost don't mean shit. Arthur Leigh Allen died with his secrets. The Zodiac case remains one of America's most twisted mysteries, a puzzle with missing pieces, coded letters, and suspects who never quite lock into place. Allen is the man history can't ignore, but also can't convict. Until some new evidence surfaces, if it ever does, the shadow of the Zodiac still hangs over California. And Allen stays frozen in time as the suspect who might have been. Support the Pizzaverse, ya degenerates. If you want more deep-dive documentaries, cold case dissections, and street-smart breakdowns with a Long Island flavor from your girl Bambi Palermo, hit the subscribe, smack the bell, join the Pizzaverse crime unit. This is Pizzaverse Studios, and we don't chase theories. We excavate the truth. Thanks for watching.
When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. When I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. From the rubble, what do I see? There's a whole damn army thinking that they're gonna harm me, saying that I'll never get free. Oh, I got troubles, they won't let me be. But I won't get tired, set the town on fire till my troubles got trouble with me. Thinking that they've won, it's only just begun. When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. And when I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. I've been on the run since I was a boy, but now I'm done running, got another thing coming. Watch my enemies get destroyed. Oh, I got troubles of more than one kind, but I never sleep. Gotta bury me 6 feet deep where the sun don't shine. Thinking that they've won, it's only just begun. When I go into that ground, I won't go quietly. I'm bringing my crown. And when I go into that ground, oh, they gotta bury me face down. Counted out, left for dead, wanted with a bounty on my head. But somehow, someway, I'ma keep moving along. Been counted out, left for dead, wanted with a bounty on my head. But somehow